Louisville 33, Notre Dame 20, the final from Louisville, Kentucky. This is The Independent. I'm Matt Fortuna of the Inside Zone. That's Pete Sampson of The Athletic. Pete, we saw a lot of possibilities going into this game tonight. Louisville just completely physically dominating Notre Dame on both sides of the ball was not what I had in the cards.
No.
What just happened?
Not even remotely a possibility. I thought maybe Notre Dame's run game negative trend lines would continue. I didn't think that necessarily was going to be the case. Notre Dame's offensive game plan felt like it was a lot of guessing tonight, and very little sort of planning. It was hard to tell what Jared Parker was trying to do, both schematically and personnel wise. I mean, they played, I think, 4 different offensive line combinations in the game.
I couldn't even keep track. Like, you were tweeting them, and even with your tweets, because I think you got some of the guards mixed up. Like,
they changed.
The further I dived
right
into it,
and left guard.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It just got more and more confusing.
It did.
And even then, I'm like, wait, was that in game? Was that like?
No, and Marcus Freeman talked about it, and I realize offensive line lineups is not really the story of the day or night, whenever you choose to listen to this podcast. But it was, to me, emblematic of a staff that did not have a handle on this evening at all. The third and short plays, when they're not running a funky reverse that Kush Tyree is fumbling from Sam Hartman, they're just plowing ahead into what looked like a 13-man box.
Right.
The receivers were a total no-show, except for the walk-on lacrosse player.
Who never played in a game.
Yeah, it just, Sam Hartman throws 3 picks. The defense eventually wears down. I'm not saying the defense played great, but if you went defense,
this was not offense, on the defense. This
no,
is not
I would
the defense
say
at all.
The defense did. I don't know if I'd say they played winning football, but they didn't play losing football.
They were good enough to win.
The offense was awful. You were at a point, I think, right before the touchdown at the end, they had scored 5 touchdowns in the last 11 quarters. And they finished with 6. They've scored 6 touchdowns in the last 3 games.
That was their first red zone trip of the game.
Yeah, it's just
the last one.
It's so far from what we thought this offense was going to be, leaving NC State, right? Or maybe Central Michigan. Like, you could say they started to bog down a little against Central Michigan, but you're sort of like, yeah, whatever. Everyone has an off day. But it's just been
they moved the ball against Ohio State. They didn't score a lot, but they moved the ball.
Yeah, it's just been such a precipitous drop ever since. You get really manhandled by Duke and manhandled by Louisville. These are the teams that you beat 30 games in a row. And to just get whipped on the offensive line, I was shocked. I did not see that coming at all. But look, Marcus Freeman post game, his press conference, he did not have answers. I don't think he really knows what happened either, and that has to be alarming both for Freeman and for Notre Dame, because if tonight showed you anything, it's like one head coach is on his 3rd job, right? I mean, Western Kentucky to Purdue to Louisville,
first year.
But a ton of head coaching experience,
sure.
Right? Marcus Freeman looked like a head coach who is 21 games into his career and
14 and
trying to learn at a place where you have this mega spotlight on you. You're frankly not allowed to lose this game, like ever, especially with Sam Hartman. And they didn't even come close to winning.
14-7 through 21 games after taking over 11-1 program. Losses to Stanford and Marshall. Losing to most. I texted you with first half of the Ohio State game today. Obviously, Ohio State turned it around in the second half, but as gettable of Ohio State team as we'll probably have in the rest of our lifetimes. Just getting manhandled today against Louisville, getting lucky, frankly, last week against Duke because of Sam Hartman, who, by the way, his last 6 quarters at Louisville, his offenses have turned the ball over 13 times.
Yeah. It definitely, it recasts the Duke game, right? Like, because of the way that they played tonight.
Absolutely did.
Just like, it feels like a much more lucky break at the end than it does like they
I said
showed
that.
something.
I mean, I didn't see this coming. I thought they'd win,
Yeah.
and even if they lost, I didn't think it would be in this fashion. But I said after the Duke game, like, look, as as optimistic as people were that hey, Notre Dame looked like the better team against Ohio State for 4 quarters, like you turn around and you can say the same thing about Duke.
Yeah.
And you split the difference. You win one, you shouldn't. You lose one, you shouldn't. And then you come out tonight and you just get manhandled. And by the way, like not going back to last year with Wake Louisville, but tonight, like I mean, Hartman didn't play great by any stretch of imagination. I would not put this loss on him. I mean, he didn't do anything to win the game, but like he had no chance tonight. I mean, he was running for his life.
He was. I mean, he slides on 2nd and
Yes.
6. Like that is. I don't know how you do that after like all the discourse last week about what you learned from Ohio State. Like that felt like a sophomore would do something like that, not a 6-year
I
senior,
remember
24 years old.
Trevor Lawrence, one of his first starts I covered, and he did that. And he afterwards was like, I didn't know the rule. I'm so sorry. I get to figure that out. Like a freshman.
That was bizarre to me. I mean, it just like I'm with you. I wouldn't put like everything on Sam Hartman, but he did not play that well tonight. He did not play that well last week. He did not play that well against Ohio State. Like there's alarming trend lines for Notre Dame's offense right now, and I'm not sure you look at. I mean, I get USC's defense is bad, but like their offense is so good. You're gonna have to score what 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns next week to win that game. I mean, Notre Dame scored 6 touchdowns offensively in the last 3 games. Like it's not happening right now for the offense, and I say that it's sad in the sense of like if you're a Notre Dame fan watching this team, you get Sam Hartman for 1 year, and it's October 8th, and as we record this at 12:21 a.m., and you feel like you sort of have wasted that 1 year already.
I mean, playoffs over. First game of October. That's a very disheartening feeling. Not as bad as last year, obviously, when it was over 2 weeks in, but I mean, it's this disheartening feeling when you had the expectations you had this year, when you had up until the very last play of a game 2 weeks ago, everything right in front of you. And it's just completely recast everything about this program. I mean, you're right. Like, he didn't play great. I mean, the third drive of the game, Quincy Riley picked him off the first time, just flat out dropped a pick that was thrown right to him. I couldn't believe the offensive line just got blown up like that again and again. Look, Jeff Brom's a good coach. I think he's much more involved on defense than any of us gave him credit for, but I didn't see this coming. I mean, what I was tweeting in real time, the finals, let's see. Notre Dame 1.6 yards per carry, Louisville 4.6. Sack adjusted, Notre Dame was up to 3.5. Louisville was up to 5.3. Louisville won the turnover battle 5-1. Notre Dame 0-2 on 4th downs. Broadcast was all over them for going on 4th 11. I didn't mind. I mean, they held.
I hated that call. I just hated that call.
Going for it or the play call?
Going for it because there was 10 minutes left in the game. I asked that was my question to Freeman after the game, and he's like, my feeling was, all right, if we don't get it, then we can hold them to a 3 and out. They kick a field goal, like the scoring balance,
which they did,
tipped away. So I just felt like it felt very desperate at the time, and I guess. You could argue that it worked just because they held him to a field goal, but it just here's what I would say. Like if you had LSU's receivers, then going for it on 4th and 11, like I'd be like, all right, I understand that, you have guys all over the field that can go up and make a one-on-one play. Notre Dame's receivers were giving you like nothing at all. So there's no option there. To like pick up the 11 yards unless Hartman's going to run for 12 yards. It's going to be like the end of the Duke game. Like that's, I think I can understand it from an analytical perspective more than I can from a personnel perspective, because your personnel is just not good enough to convert that.
I get everything you're saying. I'm not arguing against your logic. I just philosophically, I always like to be aggressive. So I'm not going to rip them for it not working out. I like them going for it in real time. It, to your point, did it work out? I don't know. I guess by their logic, because you held them to 3 and it was still a 2-possession game. My other part with that is the defense. Frankly, let's back up a little bit, because This was a 7-7 game at halftime. Notre Dame was winning 10-7 in the third quarter. Like, obviously,
Wow,
the
that's
rope
hard to
was
believe.
it is, but like I had to write that down and commit that to memory. Like the defense up until late in the second half tonight, I thought played their ass off all season long. I don't know how good they actually are. Like we're not talking about Georgia or the Steel Curtain here, but I thought this defense played so damn well and frankly above its head for so long this season that they just needed something from the offense to give them some encouragement, to give them a breather, to do anything. And I think even if you punt it there, you're asking your defense to go right back on the field, which you did anyway, to defend a longer field. They were going to wear down at some point. At that point, Louisville's probably going to run the clock out or run more of the clock out. It just, this defense deserved better. I mean, Sam Hartman last week comes out and says, I owe Al Golden, what was it, a car or something? Like
Ferrari.
Ferrari, yeah.
Yeah. Like, look, the defense played great last year, too. They offensively, they collapsed.
They were
against Marshall and Stanford.
They were good.
The defense? I mean, the defense played
good,
winning football in 11 of 12 games last year during the regular season. They didn't lose the Stanford game, obviously. Didn't lose the Marshall game. They held on for dear life against Ohio State. USC was the one where they fell down. But like to your point, is just begging for somebody to make a play offensively, and this gets back to why I think 4th and 11 doesn't make any sense. Notre Dame's scholarship receivers tonight, I'm excluding Jordan Faison, the lacrosse player who scored the touchdown. Notre Dame's scholarship receivers finished with 9 catches for 87 yards on 19 targets. 19. They had a less than 50% conversion rate when Sam Hartman threw them the ball. Like the sideline one-on-one jump balls to Rico Flores made no sense to me. I know Chris Tyree had a huge drop. Jaden Greathouse we were told he was healthy. Clearly he's not because he didn't really play. Did get in a little bit. It was good to see Jaden Thomas back. He had 2 catches for 33 yards, but there was just nothing outside the numbers from that position. I don't really know what to put that down to because it's not. I realize they've had some injuries and they're inexperienced, but they shouldn't be this bereft of talent with a quarterback who can get you the ball, but the position just hasn't given them anything.
It's bad. And, they have the night game again. So we're watching a lot of college football throughout the day. And, I saw Iowa win a game today where the quarterback completed 6 of 21 passes. And Matt Zenitz on 3 tweeted the box score and said, Iowa finished today without a single completion to a wide receiver. Through 6 games, Hawkeyes have yet to have a wide receiver finish any single game with more than 41 receiving yards. And I made a mental note of that because I kept thinking, at least you're not that, Notre Dame. But you were damn close tonight.
I mean,
by the way, Faison's top 2 scholarship offers were Notre Dame and Iowa. So at first my thought is that's like a quarterback whose first 2 offers are Army Navy. But then I realized Iowa was actually offering him as a quarterback, and Notre Dame said we can use a receiver. So
Brian Ferentz
anyway,
an extra. Brian Ferentz should get credit for that touchdown in his scoring contract clause. But they didn't give Notre Dame anything. There was no threat of them winning on the outside. And you look at Louisville. They've got, it's not like they are bereft of talent there. Thrash.
They always have skill players. Yeah,
well, like Thrash. 8 catches, 75 yards, 1 touchdown on 9 targets. Like they knew how to get him the ball and feature their players. Like I don't think that Notre Dame knows how to get the ball to their receivers right now.
I mean, did Jack Clumber do anything to impress you tonight? And I don't say that to take away from him. Did you even realize he was there?
He finished 17 to 24 for 145.
Yeah. Well, look at what was their average starting field position, right? I mean, you look at that second half drive chart, and after the opening fumble, field goal, touchdown, touchdown, field goal, downs. And those last 3 field goal drives tallied 11 total yards across 3 drives. Like it just, Notre Dame's offense just did not give them a chance tonight. And I don't know how the line plays as poorly as it does when they have, at least on the outside, the NFL talent that they do.
I think they have one NFL offensive lineman right now.
Well, I was going to get to the other guy here. Blake Fisher, a face mask when you stop him on 3rd down, which leads to a Oh no, I'm sorry. That was that got rid of the Evans 30-yard catch, but they had a
Yeah,
personal foul, face mask on Maris foul that kept the
Leafau.
drive alive. That ended up
That was on a third
pretty
down
much
conversion, I think, right?
yes. That was a 3rd and 10 that went for 5 yards, I believe,
Yeah, so that's a
and
stop that didn't happen.
and then they took the lead 24-13, and that was it. And the other, I mean, you watched that game on. I'm sure you felt it there on TV. I don't want to say they looked like an exhausted team, but like they get the ball back after recovering the onside kick. I, I don't think anyone thinks they're going to win, but like it's college football. Crazy stuff happens. If anyone saw Paul Moala, of all people, save the day for Georgia Tech tonight against Miami, you'll know what I'm talking about. But, they got the ball back down 13, close to midfield. And like, I don't know if they were defeated or what, but like I'm watching that game thinking like, is there any sense of urgency here? Like, maybe you could win. I don't know. Like, it just felt like, and look, we got to get to like the big picture here because that's not that social media is like the greatest barometer for what's actually happening in the world. But my mentions, and I'm sure yours, whereas we're lighting into Jack Swarbrick for a schedule, for this being a schedule loss. And I mean, I do think there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, they looked like a team that was absolutely gassed and unprepared for this stage. Now, those could be two different issues, but no
Yeah,
one
they
put it
could have
on
been
your.
unprepared for the stage because they were gassed, and the coaching staff decided, hey, we're going to pull back and practice during the week, so we can be fresher. But they may have turned out to be fresher at the expense of their own preparation, that's what showed tonight more than anything. But it's like this was definitely. I'm trying to think of the last time we've podcasted where essentially like everyone could have been
Right,
blamed
blame.
for this.
Yeah.
Like it's the schedule with Swarbrick. It's the offense coordinator search that went to Jared Parker at the very end instead of Marcus Freeman doubling down on an outside hire. It's the lack of wide receiver recruiting. It's the head coaching inexperience. It's sort of everything. And when it's everything, that's the worst possible place to be, because there are some institutional things that like you're not going to get fixed before USC. Like your coaching staff is your coaching staff, and I think they have some talented coaches, but it doesn't. The offensive game plan right now it's not just a 1-game blip. I mean, we're on a 4-game or 3-game full reverse right now.
It's the highest scoring game, since Central Michigan.
Yeah,
Technically.
it's very, very alarming, and I don't really know. Like, if you're Jared Parker right now, and you're sort of looking at like who are we offensively, I don't really know what the answer to that is.
No, we
the
thought they were
gadget
an off.
plays on short yardage. Like, where's just like, and I know you can't just line up and run it into like a 13-man box, but like if Louisville is that overcommitting to the run,
and you have Hartman at quarterback,
and you have Hartman
Mitchell
at
Evans at
quarterback,
tight end.
yeah, and I mean you can go 4 tight ends.
And
Like
they had 3 tight ends on that first one where
they had a 4 tight end play.
The one they fumbled, they had 3, I believe.
Yeah, it's I just don't. It felt a lot like, well, it felt worse, but it felt similar to the Ohio State game in the sense of like they just got overly cute in some moments in the first half. And then they just got vanilla in the second half, and Louisville just stuck it right back down their throat.
That's the thing. They this wasn't last week, but last week they left some points on the board in the first half, and it damn near came back to beat them.
Same thing happened in Ohio State. It did come back and beat them, though.
I'm not saying that was the case tonight because they were so thoroughly beaten up by the end, but like, you just watch that offense operation in the second half, and you were hopeless. Like, I just don't. I mean, I think you're right? Like, it's a terrible position to be in right now if you're Notre Dame, because you don't have an identity on offense. The offensive line seems like a hot mess right now. Second and third and fourth and short is just kind of like, what are we doing here? And now that our line is unreliable, what can we lean into here?
Yeah, it's a total.
Sam Hartman turned the ball over 4 times tonight himself. And then there's the program. I mean, we could take a step back, and I'm we said this in real time. We didn't know how it would manifest itself, but was it? Did you have to play a game in Ireland and then have to schedule a game right after? And we all
No,
circled NC State
we
saying, "Oh,
didn't.
that's where it'll catch up to you." No, it didn't catch up to you because NC State's not that good of a football team. But you know who is this year? Louisville, and that's when it'll catch
Yeah.
up to you because these guys look spent, and I'm sure there are people there who will make excuses for them. The rest of the nation's not going to give a damn. This is the price you pay as an independent. You have more control of your schedule than most. Why you would have 2 buys in the second half and none in the first half when you're in the middle of this stretch? Which, look, I think we always thought this was possibly going to be a night game. Duke shocked me. Like no one thought Duke would be this good
Right.
coming into the year. But again, you got to account for that. And it's just like I said going into this year, I think you said 10-2, and I think we both were kind of on that same wavelength after the way they played the first 4 games,
Right.
and even the way they played against Ohio
Yeah.
State. But I thought I'll know that Freeman and the staff are in the right direction if even if they go just 9-3, as long as it's the right 9. They lose to the 3 teams they're worse than on paper. Ohio
Mhm.
State, USC, and Clemson. I'm not sure they're worse than Clemson on paper. Well, that get another conversation for another podcast.
Yeah.
But
It's a November
like
show.
tonight, Louisville. I mean, just I've never seen a Jeff Brom team play this way. If you told me Louisville was going to win, I'd say yeah, they probably had a little bit more energy. Notre Dame probably turned the ball over, and yeah, Louisville probably had a crazy Brom trick play or two that worked and caught Notre Dame off guard, and Louisville got the win. Like this was just a manhandling.
Yeah,
I mean, there was
Jawar Jordan is a hell of a player, but 21 carries for 143 and 2 touchdowns. Like I didn't see that.
He's that good, but like most backs who have big games, most of it comes on 2 carries, and both those carries, I believe, came after big third down plays or penalty. Like I just like that defense has played, frankly, I think so far above its head that the dam was going to break at some point, and they ran to the perfect player who was ready to split that rock in half, so to speak, and just run all over them when they were just tapped out and went to the well one too many times. Like I just cannot get over how bad this Notre Dame offense looks and how lost they look just with the answer. I mean, it's very discouraging because we thought this would be the strength of the program coming into this year. And I don't know where you go from here. USC's next week. Arizona jumped up 17-0 on them on the road tonight and is about to score again here. What you said earlier, like, yeah, you're going to have to score to beat USC. The only thing where I'm in my mind right now mentally, and we're like, well, maybe they got chances. Like, well, they put it all together against Clemson last year when they were pretty much down and out of everything. Maybe they can do it again. But again, this is the end of a 4-game stretch that's tested them more than they've let on, more than we've been able to ascertain. It just doesn't seim like anything's
Yeah,
working
just
right
like
now.
why would you have more gas next week than you did tonight?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. It'd be because if they had a bye this week, and which they should have a bye this week during midterms, then come back, rest, fall break, boom, play USC on the I guess it would be the 22nd instead of the 15th. I don't know if my date's
21st,
right.
21st. Yeah, you're. It's Sunday where you are. It's Saturday where I am.
Okay,
So
it's very
21st.
confusing. Yeah, so I mean, you need to have a bye on the 14th and play USC on the 21st. Instead, they're going to play USC at the end of midterms week, right before fall break, which is not good. And if you're already gassed now, just wait until how gassed you're going to be next Saturday night, because that is it. USC feels ominous to me, even though USC is like kind of a bit of a mess itself. But they're a mess that with a Heisman Trophy quarterback who, he has weapons and can get them the ball. Like Sam Hartman is a good quarterback, but he threw 3 picks tonight and had 4 turnovers and does not have weapons. And Notre Dame cannot get them the ball other than Mitchell Evans. So it's it feels. USC feels ominous to me now in a way that I did not see coming just 3 weeks ago.
And I'll remind you, you're saying this while they're losing at home to Arizona, which is crazy.
Yes, which is ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. It's like Notre Dame is now. I don't think there's like a statistical trend of like the second loss is the hardest to process, but like that's the one that knocks you out of.
Yeah.
That removes like the thing you're really hoping you were still going to be in the running for. And like I did not think Notre Dame was going to make the playoff this year. I thought a good season would be going to Clemson at 8-1. They could be going to Clemson at 5-3 at this point. It's not. It suddenly feel or I think I might have my math off on that one too.
No,
but
you're right.
Okay, they could have 3 losses when they go to Clemson. Because certainly they'll be. USC is very difficult. Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh is like a drunk game. Who knows what's going to happen? I would be reluctant to predict anything this far in advance on that. But it's just like how you process that if you're Marcus Freeman is a real challenge. And I don't think it's any more of a challenge or less of a challenge than like going into Cal last year when you're 0-3. It's just a different challenge to solve. And I thought he did a decent job of that last year, but nobody thought Notre Dame was a playoff contender last year. I realized they started the season in the top 10, maybe the top 5.
Yeah.
This team was a lot better than that team because its quarterback was going to be a lot better. But, Sam Hartman had one of those games that when he came here, you knew that was in his system at some point. Not that it's all him.
Every ACC coordinator I talked to this offseason said, like, he's gettable. We've seen it.
Yeah.
And I kept pushing back on them. Obviously, they're the coaches. They know best. But I kept pushing back. Like,
Notre Dame's not going to ask him to do that.
Yeah. And did you see his line tonight compared to last time at Louisville?
Yeah.
I mean, he was 20 of 35 last year with 3 picks. Tonight he was going into that
38.
Yeah, he was 20 of 35 going into the final drive for the 3rd pick. And he fumbled last year, all 8 turnovers. Again, not all his, but all 8 came in the second half. Tonight they were, I guess, evenly spread, but it was bad. It was bad. And it's just recast, I think, everything we thought. Again, you survived Duke the way you did. Okay, like that was your letdown, and regroup, beat a Louisville team you should beat. See what happens against USC. Now, I mean, of all the games for Fox to bring their pregame show to that they don't have, not only is Notre Dame get killed today, USC might lose as well. Can we just have Brady and Liner play? Like,
not good.
Do an old timers game. It'll be fun in the same end zone.
Recreate.
Have Urban coach him.
Oh God,
Matt, what have you always said is my biggest weakness on fall Saturdays?
Well, Pete, I'd say your hair, but who am I to talk? Let's go with your wardrobe.
Harsh but fair.
ESQ outfits over 400 professional athletes, celebrities, and Irish players on game day with bespoke clothing that elevates their game off the field. ESQ sculpts every garment with precision, helping you look your best for work, weddings, celebrations, or in your case, Pete, the press box.
Listeners of The Independent can get 15% off their first online order by using the code IND15 at checkout. That's IND15, or visit them at their Chicago showroom for a full custom look. Head to esqclothing.com to create your perfect fit.
One of the best parts of starting the Independent podcast was a chance to pick the brands we wanted to work with, and Roback was at the top of my list. As the owner of multiple polos, hoodies, Q-zips, and shorts, I can tell you the quality, fit, and feel is unmatched. You've probably seen Roback on Audric Estime, Kyle Hamilton, and Michael Mayer. Or maybe you saw the dozen Notre Dame fans wearing the Shamrock polo at the Central Michigan game last weekend. I can tell you I saw Roback gear in Dublin earlier this year. While the gear hasn't made me quite that athletic as those Notre Dame football players, Roback is my go-to on the golf course, heading to the lake, watching my kids' sports, or just walking the dog. So make sure you're comfortable throughout the season with Roback. Use code IRISH for 20% off your first purchase. That's code IRISH for 20% off all hoodies, polos, Q-zips, and more.
There's such a deflation of Notre Dame's season. And like, I don't really know. Like, I was down outside the locker room and some fans, so, God bless them, were like, "You'll love the podcast." Like, what happened? And I'm like, I don't know. I just don't. I can't give you an answer on this. Because I said it earlier. It's just like it feels like it's everything, and when it's everything, that is the most unsettling place to be
Yes.
if you're a head coach, especially when you just don't. I mean, you said what he's 14-7 as a head coach. I'll have to go back. Like I want to tease that out for like what is his record against Power 5 teams?
Probably similar. I mean, Marshall wasn't a.
I mean, that was the one loss that was. Yeah, you talk while I look that up.
Okay. How far do we have to go back to find 7 losses before he got here?
Ooh.
One the year before, 2 the year before that, both of which were in postseason play.
Yeah.
2 the year before that. So yeah, 7 losses over the first 3 years, or the last 3 years before him. 7 losses. The first, I guess, the bowl game of 21 to October of now. It's again, they lost on the field tonight. I think they lost off the field. I think the schedule did them in. Again, that's not an excuse. Again, this is if you're going to make one of your mantras, try hard or choose hard. Like this is what you sign up for.
Yeah.
And you can't shrink under the bright lights. You just got to find a way. And look, I'm surprised we haven't brought this up yet. And I don't know enough about this world to like accurately analyze it. But at some point, not having a full-time strength coach who leaves right at the start of camp has got to show itself at some point. And I wonder if that was tonight. And again, I think the hardest part or the most important part of a strength staff comes in everything outside of the season. But that doesn't mean they're not valuable in season, especially during stretches like this, where you're going to be tested physically and mentally. And clearly they weren't up to it tonight. And frankly, probably weren't up to it last week, but had Sam Hartman bail them out. I just wonder, is this where that rears its ugly head?
It could be. I'm very interested to sort of like hopefully get under the hood on this a little bit more about like, did Notre Dame, and I said this earlier, like, did they back off enough for this in the sake of preparation and readiness and freshness? Did they back off so much that they were unprepared, that they did not practice their game plan enough, that they didn't really get after it? Because I talked to somebody who was at the Tuesday practice for Ohio State, and he was remarking to me like, wow, that was physical. Like they hit hard. It was, knockdown, drag out stuff. I don't think this Tuesday was that way at all based on what I can gather. So I'd like to know more about that. It's just kind of a story that I'd be pursuing for later in the season. But like, did Marcus Freeman sort of like get away from what he wants the program to be? Like tough offensive line driven, defensive line driven, and that requires hitting and pounding in practice, and then you just sort of live with the results on Saturday. Like I wonder if they went too far in the opposite direction, and the error of that kind of really caught up to them tonight. I don't have a clear answer for you on that.
No, I don't either. And I think if you do that, you do it when you think you have a veteran team that you can trust. And hey, Sam Hartman, you've been here, done that. You know what it's like to go into Louisville and face a raucous environment and tough crowd, and not saying, hey, we're going to turn the reins over to you and you're going to bail us out. But I think you do that when you have a veteran team that you trust. You're on the same page with them, right? Like we've talked about that quarterback head coach relationship as almost more peer to peer than coach player, just because of the age similarities and how long Sam Hartman's been around. And I'm not saying that's what happened here, but if they did pull back a little bit on the practice field this week, I'm sure they did it with good intentions, with good reason, but it absolutely blew up in their face tonight. And I don't know how you get that back for the biggest game left on your schedule. Which is
because then, I mean, what's the response to that? Like, okay, well, we did A last week. It didn't work. Now we're going to do Z. We're going to go as far as we can in the other direction. Like, I don't think that makes any sense. It shows like a lack of control or a lack of foresight in what you're doing as a football program. But I mean, if Notre Dame's just in a tough spot right now where like nothing is working except for the defense.
But even then, like they can't do everything.
No,
As we saw tonight.
I guess you look at Louisville's drives to end the game, like, can we even say the defense wore down? I don't know if we can.
No, it's fair. I mean,
it's like
they were not in a winnable position.
Yeah, Louisville's last 3 drives, 4 plays 7 yards, 4 plays minus 4 yards, 4 plays 8 yards. But their field position was so bad that they were all field goal drives. And that amounted to 9 points in a game that they won by 13.
Notre Dame forced 4 punts and a missed field goal after the opening touchdown, which came off a giveaway from Notre Dame's offense.
Yeah, right.
So again, I don't know what more this defense could do. I really don't. They've played extremely well. They've given the offense everything on a silver platter as far as, hey, we're doing our job and we've got to, the ball's in your court now. And when you just watch that offense, there's nowhere to turn other than Mitchell Evans, who was covered pretty well tonight. The run game that you thought you could rely on was just a hot mess tonight. It's very, very discouraging. Sam Hartman did not play well either. And last week it felt like they didn't have much of a plan other than Sam Hartman bailing them out, which is exactly what happened. And I don't think, short of Caleb Williams, who I don't even know if he's good enough to do it, and we'll find out by the end of tonight with the Arizona game. I don't know how many times you can turn to that. There's like one time a year you can kind of press that button and hope it works.
Yeah.
And right now, it's every negative thing everyone said about this program in the offseason's come to fruition, right? Schedule is designed stupidly. The offensive coordinator search was a hot mess, which was going to be true regardless of how well or poor Jared Parker
you just wondered, like, all right, did they do a totally messed up process but got to a decent result? And now we're sitting here thinking like, yes, the process was totally messed up, but maybe the result is bad too.
But right. And I thought even coming in, like, if we want to go back to when Freeman got hired and he hired Jared Parker, my thinking at that time, and I believe you and others were on a similar wavelength with me, was we know Tommy Rees is not going to be here that long. He almost left for Miami that very offseason. At least now you have someone on staff who speaks the same language as Freeman, who he's worked with before, who has experience calling plays, and who you can turn to when that happens. When Rees did leave for Alabama, we were told pretty emphatically it's not going to be Parker. Because that was where my mind went at first.
Yeah.
And then we don't need to rehash the Ludwig, Sean Lewis, Colin Klein stuff. But like, it was just, as poorly handled as you could possibly handle it. You end up with Jared Parker. No one's happy. But the talent on this roster, especially with a quarterback you haven't had in forever, you're thinking, it will sort itself out. And
I mean, isn't that like the damnedest thing? Because like, I remember after the Parker hiring, thinking like, well, you have Sam Hartman, like any offensive coordinator is going to look really good with this roster.
With two NFL tackles, good running backs, receivers who are not going to be worse than last year at least, and a really good quarterback. That was my thinking.
Yeah, and
they scored 40 more points in the first 4 games against nobodies. But
they functioned. Now they don't function. It's baffling to me. I don't even know what to make of that.
Even the first interception today.
I hated that decision from Hartman.
Oh, I did too, and the broadcast was all over it too. I hated it too, and yet I'm sure every Louisville fan, everyone who watched him play at Wakes, they can, here we go again, and they were right. I mean, it was the start of the unraveling.
Oh God, there were some pretty drunk Louisville fans outside the Notre Dame locker room at the end of the game, including one guy who was just screaming, like hoping Hartman would walk by, like 2 years in a row. Where are you at, Sam? Sam Hartman kid. Like, it was bad. There was some unruly fan behavior outside the Notre Dame tunnel. Like,
I heard Louisville fans saying we should retire his jersey after these last 2 years. But
yeah,
I did not.
It was bad.
Again, we did not think with this offense he'd be put in position to have that bad of a game. And even after the first interception, again, I get why everyone's minds went to last year because that's pretty much what happened. I was like, hey, you know what? The guy hadn't thrown an interception yet, If you thought he was never going to throw an interception this year, you're kidding yourself because everyone throws interceptions. All right, he's got one out of the way. Play ball. Obviously, I was sorely mistaken. And again, there was a lot operationally wrong with that entire unit beyond just the quarterback. But even just watching, and again, it's TV. I don't want to read too much, but you just looked. The body language just did not look good on that sideline. It did not. It looked like a group that got shell shocked. It did not look like a group that got punched in the mouth and was ready to get back up and punch back. Again, they get the ball back down 13, a minute something left. They haven't done anything to really inspire you offensively. But if they had, if it was a 43-30 game instead of a 33-20 game, you're thinking, all right, it's college football. Crazy stuff can happen. Get a quick touchdown, maybe. It's just. They can't do
anything offensively.
There was none of that. It was just like, oh, wait, we just scored, so we're due for something bad to happen here. At least that was like the sentiment of watching it, which ended up playing itself out because they threw an interception on that final drive. But it was something. Did you get to hang with Jack Harlow at all? He had a pretty sweet starter jacket, I will say that.
No, they showed him on the video board or somebody who looked a lot like Jack Harlow, and the fans went nuts, so I'm pretty sure that's who it was. I didn't...
Yeah. He doesn't have a hairline like Mirio.
No, I have to say I'm somewhat unfamiliar with his work.
Really? Oh, wow.
I mean, I know he is a rapper, and I could name one song that he did, but like that's it. Well,
he was also the guest picker for Ohio State when they beat Notre Dame last year.
Yeah, I remember that and thinking like, why is that guy up there?
I didn't get that either.
No, I did not spend any time with Jack Harlow. But I wonder. I'm guessing maybe he. I don't know. He seems like a guy that would have charged the field because there was a field storming at the end.
Oh, you didn't see? He was behind Brown the whole interview.
Well, was he?
He was he was behind Brown the whole interview and was caught live mic saying like cursing and like it was pretty.
Okay, that's fun. That's fun. Go Louisville. I guess they can have. It was definitely a scene at the end of the game. Like it wasn't like the crazy field storming of Notre Dame Clemson last year. I've certainly been at field stormings that were a little bit more like everyone is on the field everywhere. But you could tell that they definitely served alcohol at this stadium, based on
really in the state of Kentucky.
In the state of Kentucky, it is available if you want it. Also, a shout out to the Notre Dame Club of Greater Kentucky for a lovely bourbon gift that I received earlier today that I might have to enjoy when I get back to the hotel.
Are you driving or flying home? Because
I'll be driving.
Say home. You can enjoy it on your way home, but if you're driving, don't.
Definitely not then. But it was a pretty drunk crowd at the end, and they were happy to tell Notre Dame where to stick all sorts of stuff when I was down on the field. So it was definitely had kind of like more of a darker element to the field storming than just like, hey, we're happy that we won. It was we're thrilled you lost.
I've been at a few night games there, none of which have gone particularly well for Louisville, but that's a crowd that when they get into it of all ages. They're very there's a reason a lot of people in the ACC will say something along the lines of like however many schools they have now. We're 14 like-minded institutions plus Louisville. It's like it was Louisville and West Virginia for that last spot, and West Virginia got the Big 12 spot, and Louisville got the ACC spot, and those two hate each other for that. They were playing that one a lot on TV because I think the last time they stormed the field was when they beat West Virginia in 2006 with Pat White and who was Steve Slayton, right?
Yeah.
So that got some run on the broadcast, but no, they're they got a good football team. I'm not going to.
I did not think they had a good football team.
I wasn't sure. Like their strength of schedule was ranked 100th coming into this game.
Yeah, I mean we both talked to somebody on their staff who said, "I'm not sure how good we are."
That same person could have Peyton Manning and say we suck. I will say that.
That's true. That you make a fair point. But I took him at his analysis at face value because like. They just hadn't played anybody. They were probably a little bit better than what their scoring margins would suggest. Like, I think that, BC scored a bunch late. Georgia Tech Indiana
was late, but
Indiana was late. That's the one I was thinking of. Georgia Tech, like, terrible.
Georgetown's good. No, that's a good game. That was back and forth game.
Yeah,
They
that's
won
what I'm
at
saying.
the
It shouldn't have been a good
Oh,
game
yeah,
if
yeah.
Louisville
Right.
was good. That's the
Right.
one you're like,
And
that's a little
in
strange.
the Indiana
and then
game,
NC State was gross.
NC State was gross. The Indiana game, they're up 21-0, I think, in the first quarter, and then that was like it. Like they kind of
Yeah,
just
they just kind of shut it down.
stopped. So yeah, I mean, I didn't. Again, you can only play who's in front of you. They won all their games. Good for them. Thought they would lose tonight. They obviously didn't. They've got a very favorable ACC schedule down the stretch as far as no Clemson. I believe they avoid Florida State. Like, and we said this about Duke last week. Oh, would you be surprised if Duke was in the ACC title game by the end of the year? And I mean, you could say the same about Louisville right now too. Clemson and Wake were both on Notre Dame's schedule this year. Played a very ugly game today.
Yeah, I think their next home game is against Duke. If I'm not mistaken, Louisville Duke is a game.
If Leonard plays, yeah. If he doesn't,
yeah.
Who knows?
No, I'm just saying it's a game that will happen.
Oh yeah.
So, but
Louisville football is awesome, and their basketball team is atrocious. Go figure.
Yeah, bizarre. So, I don't. Just maybe we can just sort of wrap up on the big picture. Like, does this change sort of how you view the Marcus Freeman regime?
Yeah, I mean, within the confines of 1 week, like I don't want to jump to any grand conclusions. Say
Right.
like he's the answer, he's not the answer. But like, I don't know how you can't have a big takeaway from this game because again, there were a lot of ways we could have seen this going for Notre Dame. Some of which were bad, none of which were this bad.
Right.
And they've got a lot to fix before the biggest game of the year.
When you need to score the most points to win. Based on
and again, you know, the same way I thought that 3-loss Notre Dame team last year had a chance to beat Clemson because Clemson was undefeated, but certainly didn't look dominant doing it. And then Notre Dame comes out and just freaking curb stomps them for 4 quarters and does it by throwing for 87 yards. You know, that's like the element of hope I like latch onto if I'm an ND fan, right? Like,
right.
Not that there's like any substantial kind of connection between last
the
year
home
and this year,
game
but
rise up scenario.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, sure, they've done it, so I guess they could do it again. And again, I don't, outside of the quarterback, who's the best in the country, USC hasn't done anything this year to wow me. Like I said, I think last week, they're going to lose at least 2 games this year, and that was independent of the Notre Dame game. I don't know how that team will beat Oregon, Washington. If they play Utah with Cam Rising, you know, it's UCLA. It's got really good defense. Like Pac-12's legit this year. They might lose tonight against Arizona. They might lose next week against Notre Dame. And look, if I think that puts a little bit of added pressure, right? Like you're finally going to reach this, not finish line, but this kind of exhale marker of a bye week that is not very well placed this year after playing 8 games in 2 different countries against 4 undefeated teams at the time. 5, I think, if you include NC State.
Technically 5 of them at night as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be not let's get through this because it's a huge game, but like, you know, you win that game, you can excel in a way you couldn't if you beat Ohio State 2 weeks ago. In a way you couldn't by beating Duke last week, clearly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the elements around this game are definitely interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly disappointing night if you're a Notre Dame fan. I mean, I don't know if there's no sugarcoating. I mean, to get pounded on both sides, like this game went against the core of everything you were supposed to be program-wise.
Yeah.
And it was against a program that's not known for doing it, with a coaching staff that's not known for doing it, that's 6 games into their tenure there.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It has a little bit of like the Ohio State game sort of goes on the permanent record because of the circumstances of the ending. This one goes on the permanent record for the whole damn thing. And that reminds me a little bit more of some of the Brian Kelly no-show games, whether that be Michigan in 2019. Nothing is ever going to be comparable to hopefully the Miami game in 17, but like
last ACC regular season loss.
Yeah.
The streak's over. We didn't.
Yeah. This just kind of had some trappings of the Michigan game where you're just like, wow, you got nothing offensively. that was actually, I think, a one-score game in the third quarter, which I looked up this week for some reason. This just is like kind of one of those things where it's going to take a long time, I think, for you to feel like, all right, the program is going to come into a moment like this. And like, when I say moment like this, it's like, it's a above average ACC team on the road. I mean, that's not like a huge moment. But it's going to take a while, I think, for the fan base to be like, all right, Notre Dame's going to show up in a moment like this and rise, like, play good football. Tonight was like D- type stuff offensively. It just did not feel like a program that was wired in the right way in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, some of the talk, and I was guilty of it. I'm sure you were, and even at the playoff meetings with Jack Swarbrick the week after the Ohio State game, and Jack didn't say this. He was led into the question of, "Hey, you helped develop the 12-team playoff, and wouldn't it be great? Like, isn't you're coming off a situation where this would help you, right, after the Ohio State game?" And he's like, "I think it's great for everyone, not just Notre Dame, but like I'm sorry, you see the way they play tonight, playoff, like not to go all Jim Mora on you, like, what are we talking about here, right? Like, can't even run the damn ball for more than 2 yards per carry against Louisville.
No, I mean, it's like this team would not make the 12-team playoff
right
now, which is like much worse than missing the 14 playoff in a lot of ways. So it's
I just wonder, and I said this as like a worst case scenario, I think after the Ohio State game, I said different circumstances, but you saw everything come undone when they lost the way they did to Florida State in 2014. Like, that's like the worst. Like, when you were plotting out how, like, what does losing to Ohio State the way they do, like, do to the locker room and to the program moving forward, like, it wasn't just a loss. It was a potential breaking of trust. Potential. And we would only know how they respond by how they play on the field on Saturday. And for 58 minutes last week, it didn't look particularly great. But you thought, because of the way those last 2 minutes went, you found something to latch onto to put it behind you. And I'm not attributing this directly to that, but that's something that, like, that's the price you pay when you lose a game in that fashion. Like, it's going to come up. Like, you can't tell me Ohio State didn't beat them twice already, whether it was last week or this week.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, if they didn't beat them last Saturday, the energy you had to put into the Duke game because of the Ohio State hangover hit you tonight. It was kind of a delayed hangover, if such a thing exists. I agree with what you're saying on that. I don't know if they moved on from the Ohio State game, and maybe we should have been a little bit more like, they just got fortunate at the end of the Duke game. I don't want to say they like didn't go out and make a play, because they did. But
yeah, I mean, like, look, it's college football. Like,
weird stuff
every winner gets lucky from time to time. So I don't think we overstated it. It was a gutsy win, but it took a lot out of them. And zapped whatever left they needed to do it again this week. And it's crazy. I mean, I talked to someone on Duke staff midweek this week who said, like, we completely wore out Notre Dame in the second half last week. We don't know if that's because we're better conditioned than them, or if they were just completely zapped from Ohio State the week before. Probably a combination of both. But that wasn't something they thought they were going to be able to do. And it wasn't something we thought they'd be able to do either. So, going into both games, pick Notre Dame to the Duke and Louisville game. I think we both picked Notre Dame to win and cover, because we thought, hey, why does Notre Dame win these ACC games? They might not have the skill player. Yeah, they might not have the skill players, but they're built like a big team. They're tougher, and they'll grind out a win if need be. And I guess technically they did it last week, but they did not even have a chance to do it tonight. And it's funny to like look back at like in-game tweeting and in-game stuff, because again, this was a tie game at halftime. But the one play where they fumbled it with Tyree on 3rd and 1, which I don't know why you threw it on 2nd and 1 to begin with, but they did. And I'm like, why is Audric Esme not in? And then multiple other plays, they just get flat out blown up. And it's like, that's like the least of their problems right now.
Yeah.
But, for a guy who was leading the NCAA in rushing and who's 230 pounds, and in theory has a really good offense line to run behind, you'd think that would have been something they could count on, but it's a dark spot when they line up in those third and fourth and short situations, and you're just kind of like, like that's very
20 yards
and very antithetical to like what we know Notre Dame football to be and what we both know Marcus Freeman wants Notre Dame football to be.
Yeah, I don't get it. It was a weird night in Louisville for sure. So I guess we'll wrap up on that. After Louisville 30, Notre Dame 20, 33 20.
I think did that put them over? Was it 50? Yeah. What was the over under?
I think that would have been close.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a bizarre night here at Louisville. 33-20 in favor of the Cardinals, but we'll leave it there. I got to head back to the hotel and drive back to South Bend, Indiana tomorrow, which is actually today. And we will be back with the midweek show previewing the USC game, which looks a lot different now than it did before the Louisville game kicked off. So until then, he's Matt Fortuna. I'm Pete Sampson. You've been listening to The Independent.